If you've ever tried to keep your running performance going, deep into winter, you know the feeling. It just feels like your body is fighting you. Every single stride is a slog. And most of us just kind of shrug and say, oh, I'm not motivated, or I just need to tough it out. But what if that resistance, that feeling, wasn't a mental block at all? What if it's actually a quantifiable physics problem? Today we are doing a deep dive into this really incredible technical analysis from sundried.com. It's called Engineering Running Efficiency in Winter Environments.
Oh.
And their whole premise is, honestly, it's so refreshing. They say cold weather imposes a real measurable performance penalty. And they have this brilliant term for it, the winter tax. This isn't just about feeling a bit chilly. It's about this whole multifaceted metabolic problem driven by your body just frantically trying to stay warm. But none of that energy actually moves you forward. Plus, you've got the sheer mechanical drag from all your heavy gear. So Sun-Dried frames winter training not as an exercise in willpower, but as biological strategy. It's a battle against environmental physics. Our mission for you is simple. We are breaking down all the complex science into 7 technical hacks you can start using, like right away, to stop paying that winter tax and keep your body running like the high-value asset it is. So let's unpack the baseline first. Why exactly does our running economy just, collapse in the cold?
Well, the winter tax, fundamentally, it's all about a forced diversion of resources. Think about it. In ideal weather, maybe 90% of the energy you generate is for forward motion.
Right, pure propulsion.
Exactly. But the second you introduce cold stress, your body it hits the emergency button and prioritizes core defense. And what's really fascinating here is that the drain begins with 2 huge physiological costs. The first one is peripheral vasoconstriction. Your body literally clamps down blood flow to what they call the shell, your skin, your hands, your feet.
So that's why my fingers and toes go numb first, even if the rest of me feels okay. It's not just like bad circulation.
No, it's a deliberate defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Your body is trying to keep your vital organs warm at all costs.
Wow.
But this creates a big temperature gradient that just crushes muscle contractility and metabolic efficiency in your legs and arms. Your engine gets cooled down and it gets sluggish.
And if that cooling keeps going, that's when you get the absolute worst energy drain of all.
Shivering. Shivering thermogenesis is it's an involuntary asynchronous muscle contraction. It's just pure internal friction designed to generate heat and nothing else.
So zero propulsion.
Zero. And the key takeaway here, and this is a staggering figure from the study's Sun-Dried highlights, is that your metabolic overhead can jump by 15 to 30%.
15 to 30%?
Just from shivering.
Wow. So you could be burning nearly a third of your fuel just to vibrate in place. That is incredible.
It is. It's what we call dual task interference. You're burning all this expensive chemical energy just to stay at operating temperature instead of generating force. And don't forget, the strain actually starts before you even run.
How so?
Your cardiovascular system is already at a higher load-increased stroke volume, higher cardiac output just to maintain your core temp, which means you have less in the tank for the actual high-intensity ports of your run.
That's the heavy internal cost. But then there's the external cost, which Sun-Dried calls the hobbling effect from all our traditional winter gear.
The hobbling effect is just, well, it's classical mechanics. When you add mass, especially distally so, on your shins, ankles, or feet, it massively increases the moment of inertia.
Right.
So every single time you lift your foot, you need way more hip flexor torque to move that heavier, bulkier leg.
Which means the old school approach of just piling on heavy, stiff layers is in direct conflict with the biomechanics you need for efficient running.
Exactly. We need to find warmth without all that weight.
We need engineering.
Precisely. We need engineering solutions to solve that exact conflict.
Okay, let's jump straight into those solutions, because this is where we move from just identifying the problem to actually hacking the physics. So hack number 1 is all about mastering materials with what they call the active insulation paradigm. I mean, we all know the traditional layering approach fails, don't we? You start cold, you run, you sweat, you slow down, and then catastrophic failure. It's a freezing cycle.
That failure happens because wet clothing just sucks heat away from your body. Water is about 25 times more thermally conductive than air.
25 times.
So if your moisture is trapped against your skin, you're basically running in a high-tech refrigerator.
Right. So the technical solution moves past traditional fleece and into these almost space-age fabrics like aerogel. I've heard of this stuff. They call it frozen smoke, isn't that right?
They do. It was developed by NASA. It's the lightest solid material we know of, made of over 90% air trapped in this silica nanostructure.
Wow.
You don't need to be a chemist to get the benefit, though. Those tiny little nanopores physically stop air molecules from moving and transferring heat.
So for a runner, the benefit isn't the crazy science. It's that I get amazing thermal retention from something super thin.
Exactly.
That directly solves the bulk problem, and it lets me keep my full range of motion.
That's the practical application. And within this paradigm, SunDried really pushes for what they call active insulation architecture. So think fabrics like Polartec Alpha Direct or Primaloft Evolve.
Okay.
The hack isn't just buying the material. The real trick is using them without a heavy liner.
Why no liner? What does that do?
The goal is breathability. Maximum air permeability. Active insulation lets you keep the layer on even when you're working really hard without immediately overheating.
I see.
And its insulation value can then be changed instantly, not by stopping to take off a layer, but just by adding or removing a super lightweight wind shell.
So the wind shell is the controller.
It is. Without the shell, wind strips away heat through convection. With the shell, that air gets trapped and the insulation level jumps dramatically. You never have to stop mid-run.
That is brilliant. Okay, so if we fix the heat loss, we still have the friction issue. I honestly never considered that my clothes rubbing together could be slowing me down until I read this analysis. Let's talk about hack 2, mitigating friction via layering architectures.
It's a real thing. It's called the kinetic friction penalty. Energy is literally wasted as heat because of the internal shear force. That's just the fabric layers sliding against each other with every single arm swing, every leg lift.
So if you're wearing like 3 bulky cotton layers, you're fighting your own wardrobe.
You're fighting your wardrobe with every stride.
So the engineering solution is this gliding system. What does that actually look like? What am I buying?
You need to minimize the coefficient of friction. So a really smooth, high-gauge base layer, then a smooth, low-texture mid-layer. And this is critical, the outer shell has to have a slick, calendared inner surface.
So it's like creating this smooth, low-drag interface for your body.
That's a perfect way to put it.
This friction hack flows perfectly into the next strategy, the one for managing mass, which SunDried calls the torso heating protocol. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. Runners are obsessed with cutting all weight. Are we sure that adding an insulated vest to the core won't just shift the problem instead of solving it?
That's a great question, and it gets right to the heart of the biological strategy. The core principle is that distal mass solely on your feet and ankles is way, way more metabolically expensive than core mass.
Because of that moment of inertia you mentioned.
Yeah.
Right. You have to keep accelerating and decelerating the weight at the end of your legs.
Precisely. So the strategy is to over-insulate the core. Use an aerogel vest or a jacket with heavy core panels so you can wear lighter, less restrictive tights and gloves.
Ah, okay.
And the reason why is that studies show a warm core reduces the brain's vasoconstrictive signals.
So it stops your body from panicking.
Yes, and it literally diverts blood flow away from that core defense and sends it back to your limbs. You preserve the lightness and freedom of your stride by shifting the insulation weight to your torso. It's a trade-off that massively improves your running economy.
That's a huge insight. Lighter legs, better efficiency. Now, what about the ground itself? Hack 3 deals with traction engineering, which is, the biggest physical hurdle of winter running.
The primary inefficiency on slippery surfaces is actually neurological. It's wasteful. When your brain perceives low friction, you subconsciously adopt this guarding strategy.
You tense up.
You tense up, co-contraction of muscles, and it's a huge energy drain. So traction devices restore your confidence, and that lets you run with a relaxed, efficient gait again.
SunDried breaks down the physics of grip materials perfectly. Can you walk us through the 3 main options?
Sure. The gold standard for mixed surfaces is tungsten carbide. It's incredibly hard, so it bites into that hard black ice without getting dull when you cross a patch of dry pavement.
Okay.
Carbon steel is softer. It's okay in snow, but it's pretty much useless on ice after a few runs. And then you have specialized rubber compounds like Vibram Arctic Grip.
I've just seen those.
Yeah, they use microscopic fillers, sometimes glass fibers, to create friction on wet ice without needing metal spikes. They're great for city running where you might be ducking into a store or something.
But since we know adding weight to the foot is so metabolically expensive, what is the best low-weight, high-performance solution they found?
The ultimate budget and efficiency hack, and SunDried details this, is the screw shoe.
The screw shoe.
You literally insert hex head sheet metal screws into the outsole of an old pair of running shoes. It adds almost no weight, maybe 15 grams total, compared to slip-on spikes, which can be over 200 grams.
And you get that carbide-like bite while basically eliminating the metabolic penalty.
Exactly.
And even with great traction, your form has to change on slippery ground. So what's the biomechanical adjustment we need to be making?
It's what they call the 100-mile stride. On ice, you have to minimize those posterior shear forces, the front-to-back sliding motion that causes slips.
Right.
You do this by adopting a compact, low-impact, high-cadence stride. The absolute key is making sure your foot lands as close as possible to your center of mass.
Because that maximizes the vertical force.
Yes, it maximizes vertical force for stability and minimizes the wasted energy of trying to push off horizontally on a surface that won't let you.
That transition from external to internal engineering brings us to hack 4, respiratory thermodynamics. I mean, dealing with that painful, sharp, burning lung sensation.
That sensation is a warning sign. Cold, dry air forces your airways to rapidly humidify and warm it up before it hits your deep lungs. And that rapid evaporation of water from the lung lining triggers exercise-induced bronchoconstriction, or EIB.
Which increases the work of breathing, the WOB, and that limits your oxygen uptake.
Precisely. The technical solution here is a heat and moisture exchanger, or HME.
Okay, that sounds serious.
It's not just a thick cotton scarf that gets wet and freezes. These things use a specific internal mesh or matrix that captures the heat and moisture from your exhaled breath and transfers it to the air you inhale. This little bit of thermodynamic recycling keeps the air you're breathing in above that critical EIB threshold.
But there's a free hack too, right? The nasal breathing protocol.
Absolutely. For moderate cold or, lower intensity runs, your nasal turbinates are your body's built-in HME system. These structures are full of blood vessels, and they are incredibly efficient at warming air to body temp and 100% humidity before it even hits your windpipe.
It's a natural air conditioner that costs nothing.
Exactly.
Let's move on to hack 5, neuromuscular potentiation. We all know cold muscles feel heavy, but there's real physics behind that feeling.
Yeah, this is governed by something called the Q10 effect, which is a principle from biochemistry. In simple terms, cold slows everything down.
Everything.
It reduces muscle contractile speed and your peak power output. Sun-dried nights, a critical threshold. Performance is significantly disturbed when your muscle temperature drops below 27 degrees Celsius.
And they get rigid, right? More prone to injury.
Right. Think of trying to stir cold honey versus warm honey. The effort is just fundamentally different.
So the solution isn't just a quick shuffle outside to warm up. It's what they call the indoor launch protocol.
Correct. The traditional jog outside is often not enough because you're losing heat to the environment faster than you're producing it. The hack is to treat your warm-up as a thermodynamic charging phase, and you do it indoors.
So all your dynamic stretches, glute bridges, leg swings, do them in a warm room.
Exactly. You're creating a heat buffer.
Yeah.
You build up that internal metabolic heat so that when you step outside, the initial vasoconstrictive shock is buffered by that already elevated muscle temperature.
And that gives you a much smoother and safer transition into your run.
Much safer.
Okay, hack 6 tackles a logistical nightmare, keeping your fluids from turning into a block of ice. Winter hydration is so deceptive because the cold actually suppresses your thirst signals, but you're still losing tons of water through respiration.
Yeah, every breath you see is water vapor leaving your body. The physics problem is, of course, ice formation. So the hack uses a basic chemical principle, freezing point depression.
That sounds super technical. Can you break that down for the everyday runner?
It's actually really simple. Think about salting a road in winter. You add solutes, in our case, salt or sugar, which lowers the freezing point of the water.
Right.
Salt is especially effective because it has a high Van Hoff factor. All that means is when it dissolves, it breaks into 2 parts, a sodium ion and a chloride ion.
So more particles.
More particles. And those ions physically get in the way of the water molecules, making it much harder for them to lock together into that rigid crystal structure we call ice.
So using a hypertonic electrolyte and carb mix keeps your drink liquid for longer than plain water, just because there are more disruptive particles floating around.
Precisely. And for logistics, Sun-Dried advises avoiding those narrow hydration bladder tubes. They have a high surface area to volume ratio, so they freeze instantly.
Oh, of course.
The better solution is carrying soft flask inside your mittens or tucked into your jacket to use your own body heat.
Okay, finally, hack 7, electronic preservation. How do we keep our data from dying when the device dies? We're talking about lithium-ion battery failure.
Right. Low temperatures dramatically increase the battery's internal resistance. This slows down the electrochemical reactions and causes a rapid voltage drop.
And if the voltage just drops below a certain point, the watch just shuts down.
It shuts down even if the battery technically still has plenty of charge left.
So the immediate fix is just keep it warm. Thermal proximity.
Yes. Wear the watch under your sleeve or your base layer right against your skin. That body heat keeps the battery in its happy place.
And what about heart rate?
Also, that cold-induced vasoconstriction makes the wrist-based optical sensors really unreliable because there's just less blood flow for them to read. The pro solution is a Bluetooth chest strap. It stays warm under your layers and measures the electrical signals directly.
Much more accurate.
Far more. And for GPS, just keep your standard 1-second update rate, but kill all the other battery drainers like backlight and any continuous syncing.
That is a phenomenal amount of technical data, but it gives us a real actionable plan. Let's quickly synthesize the advice from SunDried, maybe tailor it for the listener based on, how much time or money they want to invest.
Yeah, for the budget-minded learner, the absolute top efficiency hack is the screw shoe. Combine that with a standard windbreaker over a smooth wool or synthetic jumper to get your gliding layers, and then just be really strict about that indoor warm-up protocol. Those are huge leverage fixes that cost almost nothing.
And for someone in the middle of the road, serious, but not ready to buy a whole new wardrobe,
I'd say invest in a quality windproof shell, some dedicated traction devices like Cutula nanospikes for versatility, and crucially, a Bluetooth chest strap for accurate data. Don't trust your expensive watch to do everything when it's freezing.
that makes sense.
And for anyone who's really pushed for time, the advice is to focus on intensity over volume. The cold actually helps prevent overheating, so it's a perfect environment for high-quality threshold intervals.
Use that indoor launch to combine your strength work and warm up, then get straight outside for the high-intensity stuff.
Exactly.
So, the core philosophy from sundried.com seems to be this. Preparation is the antidote to friction. Get your gliding layers packed ahead of time. Keep all your sensitive assets, your shoes, your electronics, your fluids indoors and warm so they are thermodynamically ready to go the second you step out that door.
We've seen today that most of the challenges you face in cold weather running, they aren't failures of motivation. They're just physics problems that are asking for an elegant engineering solution.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to mull over. If you can solve a 30% metabolic efficiency drain with material science, traction physics, and a simple chemistry hack like a hypertonic electrolyte drink, what other areas of your life are you currently treating as a motivation struggle when, in reality, they could be solved with a simple engineering hack? Go deep on that one. We'll see you next time.